So Adolis Garcia, bud, just continues with the heroics in Texas. The guy has just been what a revelation for that team. Like, and I know most people probably know his story with after this performance that he's put on over the playoffs here. But for those of you who don't, like Adolis at age 23 defected from Cuba and signed a minor league contract with the Cardinals, where he never really caught on. He played, I think, 21 games in 2018. He had like two hits. They sent him back down to the minors where he toiled all year in 2019 before they eventually traded him to Texas for cash consideration.
Um, yes, his stat line with the Cardinals: 21 games played, 3 hits, batting average 118. I've never seen this before. His OPS plus was
Wow.
negative 21. I don't know how you even
Wow.
get that.
I don't even know how you get that low. That's right.
Wow.
And then on February 10th, 2021, the Rangers DFA'd him. They
Yep.
designated Adolis Garcia for assignment, and 29 teams passed on him. And then they offered him a non-roster player invite to camp. Of course, he made the team that year and hit 31 home runs,
Yep.
placed fourth in Rookie of the Year voting, was selected to the All-Star game. And now here we are, right? 2 years later, Garcia helped lead the Rangers to their third World Series, won the ALCS MVP, put the nail in the coffin in game one in extra innings yesterday. I mean, the guy has been lights out. He's been lights out. He's
Mm-hmm.
been the best player on the field. And it does make me think a little bit like I know I keep reading all these tweets from Blue Jays fans. Oh, wouldn't it be nice to have an Adolis on our team? And it's like, well, this is why you don't just throw a guy out at 24 years old because you're upset with him. Everyone who's like the same people who are like, wouldn't it
I
be nice
know.
to have Adolis are also like, maybe we should trade Vladdy. Like,
Oh, it's so true though. Yeah.
but hello, everybody, and welcome to the Walk Off. I'm Scott Belford, joined as always by the best co host in the biz, Adam Mack. We have a lot to get to today. Now, normally this is the Friday show. We didn't get a chance to make it happen yesterday. So we're going a day late. The way she goes. We're going to touch on Alek Manoah. Listen, he has been working his butt off. If you're paying any attention to his Instagram story, he's definitely posting his progress with his conditioning. It's hopeful. The Blue Jays are going to be in a bit of a catching crunch come 2024. Is now the time to extend Danny Jansen? We'll explore that and look at what it would look like. Ben Nicholson-Smith, friend of the show, we'll have to bug him to come back over the offseason here. But he had an article that, if you haven't read it, you really should read it. He basically breaks down 10 different options that the Blue Jays could pursue. So I kind of cherry picked like the most likely six. So we'll sort of go over that and ask you to comment in the comments as to how you feel about which one you would like to see. And then maybe we'll tackle that in mailbag. Orelvis Martinez, number two prospect in the Blue Jays system, number 88 according to Baseball America. He's a top 100 prospect. He continues to develop. He is headed to Licey in the Dominican Republic to play in some winter league ball. So we'll kind of go over what led to that and what we can maybe expect from Orelvis in 2024. World Series underway now. Texas with that 1-0 win in extra innings, or sorry, 1-0. They're up in this best of seven series after Adolis in extra innings wins that game one. And then we'll touch on Halloween. Will Adam Mack be Hopper from Stranger Things again? I doubt it. He doesn't like to revisit it, and he doesn't seem like a mustache guy anymore. You just like to cover that face, but
Gotta hide the chins. Gotta hide the chins. All right. Um, Alek Manoah, getting in shape.
yeah, man. I don't know. Have you seen some of his Instagram stories?
Honestly, I'm so out on guys are putting in the effort this off season. the sequel is going to be better than the trailer. I'm so out on that. I mean,
I think
good,
one of the
but
most interesting talking points of the last year was there was kind of an underlying lack of conditioning with some of the players. Alek Manoah wasn't alone on this. We all know who we're talking about here. And I'm not saying that they necessarily didn't come into camp in shape, but maybe not quite to the level of elite athletes and some of their competitors did. And I hope that they took this to heart. The Alek Manoahs, the Alejandro Kirks, the Vladdy Guerreros of the world. Listen, again, we watched Vladdy come into the 2021 season in the absolute best shape of his life. And
and
look at what
that's
happened in
that's
2021.
the problem. Okay. Here's my
Yep.
uneducated issue with this. Just this whole like as a topic. Oh, Alek Manoah finally putting in the work. Oh, is he putting in the work? Does this guy need to lose weight? The extent of my evaluation of a athlete's fitness is fantasy football based. So I'm coming from a good spot already with this one. Been playing fantasy football for dozens of years at this point. Rookie running back, dominated in college. But the question marks are, is he big enough to compete in the NFL? He's got a small frame. He's a skinnier guy. It worked in college. Will it translate against the real adults of the NFL? Comes into the NFL, looks good, has his moments, and then it doesn't really have the breakout year everybody wanted. Over the offseason, puts on muscle mass. Just a shredded monster of meat and muscle. Oh, is that ever exciting in spring train or in the
Yes.
in the training camps going into the season? And then the season starts and he's so much worse than he was the year before. He's in way better shape. But he's slower now. He's lost his explosive speed that was the best asset he had. So what he gained in power and toughness, he more than lost in the explosive agility skill set that he had. My point here is fitness is such a relative term that we lose sight of the word fit. It's right in
Yes.
there, right? And it's so personal, right? So like if Alek Manoah was to lose 100 pounds and just be a skinny boy, I don't think that would be good for him. I know that's an
No,
exaggerated example, right? But that's where
I
I'm like,
agree.
when I see the work that's being put in, I don't know if it's the right kind of work. Maybe that was his issue last year. Maybe he worked too hard and it was
Mhm.
fatigue, right? I don't know. So that's
I
where
mean,
I'm
this is
I'm
one
kind of
thing.
just out on all of this because I'm like, I don't know enough to know, is him throwing medicine balls against a brick wall going to help the movement on his off-speed pitches? I don't know. Is that what he needs? Is it conditioning? I don't know. Is it fatigue? Like, is he over conditioned? I
I
don't know.
think I think performance is going to determine whether it was the right fitness or not. We are going to need to wait and see. And I know that this is something that we've been on since mid-season, thanks to your buddy Matt Wild, friend of the show, who works in sports medicine, who works in sports science, and just straight up said he truly believes Alek Manoah's problem right from the get-go. This was back in May. He felt like arm fatigue was his big problem. And the only way to overcome arm fatigue is not to work your way through it. It's not to continue to throw. It's not to go down to the minor leagues and throw against 18-year-olds. It's to shut your arm down, let it recover, and build yourself back up. And I really do believe that maybe this was one of the thorns in the craw of Alek Manoah by the end of the season, is that he truly felt he was fatigued, and maybe the Blue Jays wishing him to go down to Buffalo. I think there's there are aspects to this story that we're not privy to, that we're not aware of. And so we're just going to need to wait and see. Now, listen, we're going to get into Ben Nicholson-Smith's article, but Ben Nicholson-Smith is a guy who I truly feel like has lost faith in Alek Manoah. And there are a few of those out there who feel like Alek Manoah is not going to be a Blue Jay by next year. I know that in some of the scenarios, yeah, Adam, you are on record as being one of those guys. And I know that in quite a few of the scenarios that Ben gives, Alek is a trade piece, bringing back an outfielder. I have a really tough time reconciling with this just because his value is so high in 2022 after finishing third in Cy Young voting. We're all aware that Alek Manoah he's under control until 2028. He lost a year of arbitration, so he's literally league minimum or close to it anyways. Until 2026, he doesn't even start his ARB years now. So there is a lot of value there. Perhaps there's a team that feels like they can pay under what he was worth and get him back, which I can't see Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro operating that way. But who knows? Maybe they've lost faith in the man. You know, we always heard Alex Anthopoulos when he was a Blue Jay talk about that was one of the reasons he signed Jose Bautista before he had really proven himself. He had that big September. They kind of locked him up after the huge 2010 he had on just 1 year of showing what he's got. Because he believed in him as a guy. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe they don't see that makeup, that chemistry in Alek Manoah, but we'll never know this. So right now, is it worth being hopeful over the fact that Alek has a chip on his shoulder? He's got the Marcus Stroman going. He's got people to prove wrong. We don't know what motivates every athlete. And you kind of put it perfectly when you were talking about fitness, and everybody's different, right? Every mind is different. Everyone uses different fuel to motivate themselves. And this might be really good for Alek Manoah to feel like the world is against him and he's going to shove it down everyone's throat. So we need to wait and see how this all plays out. I really hope that Alek Manoah gets right in the head, gets right in the body, and comes back and takes that fifth spot in the Blue Jays rotation and runs with it. Because my goodness, even if Alek Manoah can be that number 3 guy around a 4 ERA who logs 185 innings, yes, please.
Do you feel good about that though? I mean, like that, I would love that too.
I think it's possible. I really do, honestly, man. Like for a 23-year-old to come out and show what he showed in 2021 and then to have the year he had last year, it's in him. It wasn't a fluke. Now, yes, guys adjust and hitters, the league adjusts and all that, but he did it once. Time will tell. I mean, that's the thing with this Alek Manoah experience is that right now it's just all speculation. We're going to need to see how this offseason goes. Whether he's even a Blue Jay or not, time will tell.
Well, should we skip over the Danny Jansen extension, come back to it, and talk this Ben Nicholson-Smith article then?
Yeah, we can do that.
Just while we're on the topic of Alek Manoah, this Ben Nicholson-Smith article lays out all these different options for trades, or for off seasons, different directions we could go, how plausible they are, how much we'd be spending in order to make it happen, would it improve the team versus this year? All these, honestly, really interesting read. If you haven't read it yet, really good read. I like this sort of stuff. Ben Nicholson-Smith, I think
truly one of the best
pretty knowledgeable,
knowledgeable
baseball guy. So certainly a way better article than if you or I were to attempt this type of thing.
Yes.
One thing that stands out for me is that in all of these scenarios, I think there's 10 of them, and in like half of them, Alek Manoah gets traded. And I
Yep.
think in every single one, what he's traded for is Blue Jays
Minimum.
acquired Dylan Carlson for Alek
Hmm.
Manoah. Is that all
Tyler
Alek?
O'Neill and prospects.
Is that all he's worth as a Dylan Carlson?
And that's why I have a tough time seeing him getting traded.
If that,
This is
okay, I'll say if that's what we're getting back in return, yeah, I say let him toil in AAA and pout if that's what it comes to. Do
Mhm.
not get rid of him for Dylan Carlson.
This front office is so focused on asset management too. I have a really hard time believing that that's the type of return that they would get for Alek Manoah. And I'm not saying that they're going to let the lashback or the fan outrage over the Varsho trade cloud their judgment. But boy, oh boy, if they traded Alek Manoah and he just rebounded completely, and we have Dylan Carlson in left. Uh, no offense to Dylan Carlson, he's a decent piece. He's just not a he's not the value of a 3.5 ERA pitcher who's going to log 190 innings, right? Like if that's what Alek Manoah can return to, and that's what people forget too, right? Like, yeah, Alek Manoah had an incredible ERA in 2022, but he finished the year, and yes, this does include the wild card game, but he finished the year with 201 innings pitched in 2022. He was a horse for
Yep.
this team.
The upside is there. Can't argue that. Dylan Carlson, by the way, for anybody curious, left fielder, switch hitter, left throwing. Not that
Yeah.
it really matters, but interesting to note. Numbers offensively don't look good. I don't know his defensive metrics enough to spout whether he's good or not. Defensively, the way Dalton Varsho is. Last year, he hit 219 with an OPS of 651. 21
So
points below average on the OPS plus. So
what did his
career
2022
numbers
look like?
don't look much better. 2022, he hit 236 with a 695 OPS.
Yeah. Kind of a league
Uh,
average guy. I mean, he
as
would
a
be he would
as a
be the first
rookie,
switch hitter on the
as,
team.
as a rookie in 2021, he was third in Rookie of the Year votes, if that matters to you. He hit 266 with an OPS of 780. So an OPS plus of 115.
So they would be trading reclamation projects, basically.
Look, yeah, or did he come up and have a good I don't think he's
Or did the
adjusted
league
to
adjust?
the league
Exactly.
adjusted and he hasn't readjusted. I mean, Davis Schneider had an awesome month and a half too, but I don't think anybody's given us Dylan Cease for Davis
Yeah.
Schneider. So
Okay, so let's start with so there were 10 options here that Ben Nicholson-Smith laid out in this article. I took 6 of them. 4 of them are just not going to happen, and he
you
kind
don't
of
think
threw
we're
them in there.
signing Shohei Ohtani?
Well, no, I'm going to bring up that one
Okay.
because listen, it is incredibly unlikely. However, the fact that Shohei did state that, and of course, why would he eliminate one of the top spending markets in baseball? He did say that Canada is somewhere where he could see playing. The Blue Jays, by the way, there are rumors that Rogers has 2 budgets, right? One that is very comparable to last year's budget, and one they call the unicorn budget, which is one where they can lock up Shohei Ohtani, which totally makes sense. I mean, I think that there's probably 15 teams in the league that are doing the same thing. You have a talent like Shohei Ohtani available to you, never. So you might as well take your
Yep.
swing, see what happens. I mean, the truth is, wherever he winds up landing, it's going to be for a long-term contract. I know there's some people saying, "Oh, he'll take a huge number, 150 million for 3 years." I can't see it happening. Shohei Ohtani is going to sign an 11-year, $500 million deal. Like that's just what's going to happen. I will eat my words if that is incorrect, but I just can't see a world where Shohei leaves that kind of money on the table. Now, there'll probably be an opt out. It'll probably be a Manny Machado deal where in 3 or 4 years he can just be like, you know what? I'm killing it more than even I thought was possible. I'm going to hit the open market again and try and take another 10-year deal. So this option is Ben calls it the unthinkable happens. And that would be the Blue Jays signing Shohei Ohtani to an 11-year deal for around $500 million, $500 million. They sign Candelario, Jeimer Candelario. Of course, he was with the Reds, wound up with the Cubs at the trade deadline. He sees him at 2 years, $26 million. Harrison Bader to a 1-year, $9 million deal. Lance Lynn, a 1-year, $7.5 million contract. Ahmed Rosario to a 1-year, $7 million contract. And one thing you're going to notice, Ahmed Rosario is on almost all of these options that Ben lays out. He does really fit well with the Blue Jays. He plays some center. He plays some second. He plays some short. Not well, but he plays some short. So I basically in this scenario, Ben is seeing, and again, acquire prospects or cash considerations for Santiago Espinal. So in a lot of these, Espinal is being shipped out. He also says in this one, sign Isa Kiner Falafa, IKF, I should say. I feel like that's redundant. IKF and Ahmed Rosario kind of are redundant here. So I don't know if they would go that route. But he says, would the team be good? Yes, very, obviously. I mean, it would be an insane team. Reality check, highly unlikely. So this is one of the long shots here. Of course, the Blue Jays are going to put in an offer on Ohtani. I can't see it happening.
No, I don't think so either. But you can guarantee my thumbnail for this video today will be
Shohei in a Blue Jays jersey.
Shohei in a Blue Jays jersey. Yeah. I'm going to Photoshop our faces over someone else's faces, and we're going to be doing the Home Alone face. Oh my God. This changes everything. Okay. So no Shohei Ohtani.
This next scenario is win the Cody Bellinger sweepstakes. Now, Bellinger is going to be highly sought after. He's one of the best defensive center fielders in baseball, and he showed that his offense has kind of returned to maybe not career average, but close. He's showing power again.
Doesn't look lifeless. He's not a hole in your life.
He's not by any means. And according to Ben, this would be a 7-year, $168 million contract. So does Rogers have another big $150 to $170 million contract in them? Probably. Cody Bellinger does fit really well with this team. Left-handed power bat, would split up all the righties at the top of the order. You could back Cody in that second or third spot in the lineup. Makes it easier to have an actual cleanup hitter, whether it's Bo, whether it's Vlad, however they wish to massage this lineup. I think that's great. He says sign Adam Duvall to a 1-year deal in this scenario. Ahmed Rosario again. Evan Longoria as the veteran. 1 year, $4 million. Acquire Jake Fraley for Nate Pearson and Spencer Horwitz. Jake Fraley, by the way, is mentioned quite a bit in these scenarios as well as an outfield option to play left field. And then acquire prospects and cash considerations for Santiago Espinal. And would the team be good? Ben says yes. Reality check, plausible. So this is a scenario that I think the Blue Jays are going to at least explore. The third option here that I truly thought was possible was the return to Lourdes Gurriel Jr. I don't see this as, listen, I know everyone is just in love with Lourdes right now, and they are just, the whole reason the Blue Jays didn't go to the World Series is that Lourdes Gurriel Jr. wasn't on this team. How could they give him up? Almost like everyone has forgotten the 5 years previous. And I love Lourdes. He was a great piece. Good left fielder. Cannon of an arm. Definitely some adventures in left field with his routes to the ball. But all in all, an average to above average fielder. And he's got a good bat on him. In this scenario, Ben considers signing Michael Lorenzen to a 2-year, $22 million contract, signing Jock Peterson to a 1-year, $12 million contract, that big lefty bat, sign Evan Longoria, acquire Dylan Carlson for Alek Manoah, which we were talking about there. Would the team be good? He says probably. Reality check. It's easier to see Gurriel signing elsewhere. So a reunion with Lourdes, probably unlikely.
Can I ask you the way evaluating trades, impossible to do, especially this early. But if we were looking 4 years from now in reverse, and we just said, like, if the plan all along was, hey, Lourdes, we got to send you to Arizona for 1 year to make this deal happen, but then we're gonna absolutely give you $18 million a year for 4 years. We want you here. We just need to rent you out for 1 year. If that was the plan, and the Blue Jays signed him to that 4-year, $72 million deal this offseason, does that at all affect how you weigh the trade? Do you go, okay, well, we got 5 years of Varsho and 4 years of Gurriel versus the whatever 7 years of control they got for Moreno? Like, is that at all part of the, or do you just go, no, that's a separate transaction and you need to keep those separate?
See, this is where it is so difficult to truly judge a trade because it's so
complicated.
hard to, like, you can't ignore some of the other things that happened, right? Like, everyone's so quick to just be like, it's Varsho and versus Gabby and Lourdes, when truly, I mean, there were a lot of moves that happened because they moved on from Lourdes, right?
Mhm.
Kevin Kiermaier, Brandon Belt, both had incredible years, and people don't like to bring that up into the equation. Bringing Lourdes back would be an interesting endeavor, and I'm not sure if you can actually count that into the math as to how this trade works out. I'm on the fence of that. Great question. Would love to hear from you, the grounds crew. What do you think? If Lourdes returns, do you factor that in to the Varsho Moreno trade at all, or is that completely irrelevant and separate?
It feels to
Imagine
me,
that's funny though, Adam. I love the idea of them going to Lourdes and being like, "Listen, we're going to bring you back. We'll do you a favor. We'll send you to Arizona to win a World Series. Then you come back
with playoff experience.
with playoff experience." And yeah,
I only ask because, like, this trade deadline with Shohei Ohtani on the market, it was one thing that was bandied about as a mental exercise of, like, what if the Angels went to Shohei and were like, hey, we're going to trade you for a massive haul, go on your playoff run, get a taste of the playoff experience, but we still want you. We're going to bring you, like, we're going to offer you $500 million. Don't worry. This isn't we're not breaking up with you, right? But when you come back next spring, the team's going to be even better because we rented you out, right? We're going to have that extra pitcher, that extra 5 prospects in AAA ready to chip in 2024, right? Like, that's an interesting thing to contemplate. So I think there are some parallels there to, like, if that was not necessarily planned with Gurriel, but if that's how it ended up working out, of like, hey, come on back. We made the team better. Thanks for letting us rent you out for a year. I don't know. Anyways.
yeah. The next one is called a balanced approach, and this is kind of my favorite.
Do you want Gurriel Jr. back? Is he a guy
Not
that you
really.
miss? No.
I miss him. I really like Gurriel. I just at 30 years old, I don't know, man. Would I be disappointed if they brought him back? Probably not.
Yeah.
At 4 years, 70 million, could resources be allocated to a better spot? I feel they could.
I agree. I'm with you.
So the balanced approach one is my favorite. Signed Jmar Candelario, and I said he was with the Reds. He was with the Nationals. My apologies.
Red jerseys.
Red jerseys. Yeah. Jmar Candelario to a 2-year, $26 million contract. Signed Rhys Hoskins to a 1-year, $20 million prove-it contract, similar to what the Marcus Semien one was. Of course, Hoskins, a Philadelphia Philly, and had an injury-ridden season this year. I like where he fits on this team. Sign Ahmed Rosario, sign IKF, acquire Jake Fraley for Nate Pearson and Spencer Horwitz, and then acquire prospects or cash for Santiago Espinal. Would the team be good? Yes. Reality check. Quite plausible, Ben feels on this one. And I think this is probably the approach we're going to see. Maybe not exactly as he lays it out here, but I think we're going to see some trades made. I think we're going to see some lower risk free agents acquired. I don't know if they're going to go out and get a Cody Bellinger or good Lord, the unicorn himself. But the balanced approach is, I think, something that this organization very well could go. The next option that is very possible, he calls the even more balanced approach. Sign Josh Bell to a 2-year, $34 million contract. I love this idea. Josh Bell is a guy that I think Blue Jays fans have had their eye on for a while. He's kind of the Jay Bruce of this era, right? Yep. So he's a big lefty bat. He plays first base so that he can give Vladdy some time off, much like Brandon Belt did. Sign Kenta Maeda to a 2-year, $32 million contract. Sign David Robertson for the back end of the bullpen. Sign Gio Urshela to a 1-year deal. Acquire Jake Fraley for Nate Pearson and Spencer Horwitz. And again, the Dylan Cease for Manoah trade comes up. Would the team be good? Probably. Reality check. Plausible. So those are the most likely ones. The last one I am going to bring up is just because it was interesting to me, and he calls it the international excellence. And that's where you go to Japan, you sign Yoshinobu Yamamoto to a 7-year, $154 million contract. Of course, he's the big pitching free agent that is coming out of Japan this year. They think there's not even 100% that he is going to leave Japan, but he could be available. And if he is, he's going to be probably the most sought after international pitcher on the market, maybe even the most sought after pitcher on the market. He says then sign Joey Votto to a 1-year deal, bring him home to Canada. Ahmed Rosario, of course, there he is again. Acquire Willy Adames for Santiago Espinal, Chad Dallas, Connor Cook, and Landon Muratas. Willy Adames is an interesting option here. Of course, he's got, I think it's 1 year left on his contract, maybe 2 in Milwaukee, and the Brewers, being a small market team, might be interested in moving on from Willy Adames as his contract is expiring. So Dylan Cease for Alek Manoah is also on this one. Would the team be good? He says yes. Reality check. Plausible, but probably the least unlikely of all the ones we mentioned outside of Ohtani.
Everybody rushing to their keyboards. Dylan Carlson for Alek Manoah.
Yes.
I planted that Dylan Cease trap in your brain, but
right, Dylan Carlson, yes.
Dylan Cease for Alek Manoah. I'm all over that. Let's do that. Let's pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, I'm sure most of us are. Most of us are. Great article by Ben Nicholson-Smith. Yes. I know we just kind of regurgitated it here to you, but honestly, check it out on Sportsnet. He did a really in-depth job of this.
Could I read a few more tea leaves into this? Because, okay.
Yes.
The way I like to read an article like this from an educated hypothesis standpoint, such as him or Shy or any of the internal reporters who may have unofficial, off-the-record knowledge of off-season plans. So I think there's real value in an article like this as opposed to anything you or I could whip up or any other Yahoo on the tube. In 2 of those 10 scenarios, Kevin Kiermaier resigns the Blue Jays. Does that mean a 20% chance? I don't know, but noteworthy. In almost every scenario, Santiago Espinal gone.
Yeah.
Cash considerations and prospects. Sounds like basically we're moving on from him. We're making space for somebody else. Maybe it's internal. Maybe it's a signing. He's gone. Also, 0 mention in any of the 10 scenarios. Whit Merrifield comes back to the Blue Jays.
Very
also,
true.
0 of these 10 scenarios does Matt Chapman return to the Blue Jays.
Very good point. Very good point. I do wish to touch on the Santiago Espinal thing for just a real quick second, because I know that there's a lot of Blue Jays fans who are on Twitter saying things like, who would even give up anything for Santiago Espinal? And to that, I shake my head a little bit, man. It's like, this is a guy who was an all-star 2 years ago, can play shortstop, can play second base, makes almost nothing.
Yeah.
You're telling me there isn't value in that somewhere? I'm not saying we're going to get a bunch of high-end prospects, but can we get a few?
We traded for Paul DeYoung.
Yeah.
For 10 days.
Yeah.
There were people willing to give
That's
something for Espinal. Yeah.
So I again, do we expect a top prospect for him? No. But could we get some valuable assets in return? Absolutely.
A young Adolis Garcia, perhaps. All right, now we're just getting crazy. Let's sign Shohei while we're at it.
Yeah. That was a really good point, by the way, about not one of these 10 scenarios had Matt Chapman's name in it.
Well, I had to double check because I thought maybe it's not a confirmation by omission until I saw that there are definitively 2 scenarios where he specifically says sign Kevin Kiermaier to 2 years. Mm-hmm. So
the Jeimer Candelario is interesting too, because the Blue Jays do have, I would say, 3 internal options, probably vying for that third base. Orelvis Martinez, which we are going to get into, he does have a rocket of an arm and does profile decently at third base. He's gotten most of his time at shortstop. I know they're playing him at second base in the Dominican Winter Leagues. So we will touch on that, but he is an option, but he's also 21 years old. He'll be 22 in the offseason. In a competitive window, betting on a 21-year-old where you're relying on it, that's a tough one.
That's a risk.
Listen, we're watching what's happening with Evan Carter in Texas, and absolutely a young guy can come up and contribute in major ways, but to rely on that is a very, very dangerous road to go down. Addison Barger, another dude, same scenario, right? A little older. He's going to be 25 this offseason. Relying on him. I need to see more out of him, I think, before he gets the call up. I think he is going to make his major league debut in 2024. I just don't think it's going to be out of spring training. And having a guy like Candelario on the team, it does allow you some leeway. And then also, if you do need to go 2 years, he's a guy, third basemen don't grow on trees.
Nope,
so even if you do lock him up for a 2-year deal and need to trade him next offseason, deal with that next offseason.
Yeah.
And then finally, before we move on to the Jano extension idea, I also thought it was really interesting that Jake Fraley and Ahmed Rosario both were brought up numerous times. They were brought up enough where I'm like, does Ben know something? Are these guys that the front office of the Blue Jays have little stars next to? Of course, that doesn't mean that they're going to acquire them, but if they're guys they're shooting for, we've watched them woo players in the past.
I like it. It'd be an interesting offseason. Cody Bellinger, 7 years, $168 million. He's 28 now. That takes him to age 35. Is there a more high risk, high reward free agent option this offseason?
Probably not.
Like that could absolutely.
Maybe Shohei.
Yeah. I feel like he's safe. He's got a higher floor than Cody Bellinger.
He does.
Like, it's going to cost you to make it, but it does feel like more of a sure thing. I mean, barring injury.
His risk is injury. His risk is injury.
Right. Cody Bellinger, I feel like, could be healthy and could be an absolute Vernon Wells in the outfield for the last 5 years of that deal. But if we don't, the fan base is going to revolt. So, all right. Anything else? Danny Jansen extension? Catcher
so
Crunch?
Danny Jansen.
Catcher
he's
Crunch,
28 years...
by the way. Delicious name for a cereal.
What is?
Catcher Crunch.
Catcher Crunch, yes.
Just Danny with the blue sideways pirate hat. Yeah. All right. That's
By the way, man, the amount of times that I'll listen back to our episodes and you are being absolutely hilarious and things are going right over my head, it's almost embarrassing.
It's great. No, you're
Like
being
one
professional
a
and I'm
show.
being a goof.
Yeah, one a show.
Jumanji. All right, there we go.
So Danny Jansen, 28 years old. One thing that I think is important to recognize with Danny is he is one of the few players on this team that has been developed internally, has been a Blue Jay his whole career, has been a part of this core since the beginning. He knows the pitching staff so incredibly well. The pitching staff love Jano, and there is a lot to be said for a staff believing in the catcher and what they're calling behind the plate. We've had major league catchers on this show before. Joe Siddle actually mentioned that it takes years in the big leagues to become elite at calling a game. And Danny Jansen is finally at the point in his career where he is sort of there. 29 at the end of his final year of ARB, so we do have him under contract for one more year. He made $3.5 million last year in arbitration. He's probably going to be around 4.25, 4.5 in ARB this year. An extension this offseason, honestly, man, it probably makes the most sense out of any guy on this team that they need to extend outside of Bo Bichette. Lock him up for another 2 years. Listen, you can do it at a very reasonable price. I really do think that Danny would sign an extension, $20 million for 2 years, $10 million a year, for a few reasons. Number one, that would take him to age 31. We watched what JT Realmuto signed with the Phillies at age 31. By the way, I'm not comparing Danny Jansen to Realmuto. However,
obviously Danny has way more power in his bat.
His offensive numbers, if he can stay on the field, have been so exciting over the last couple of years. And I know that there is this misconception, in my opinion, and I could be wrong on this, that he's injury prone. But if you look, and we've talked about this before, Adam, if you look back at his injuries over the last couple of years, like how many times can the guy take a ball in the hand and need to be out because of it? You know, like he got hit in the hand earlier in the season, missed time. He took a foul ball off his middle finger, broke it, needed surgery to miss the last 6 weeks. He still had a career high in home runs with 17 this year and is literally the only guy who pulls the ball for power on this team. Danny Jansen, it just seems like a really good fit for both sides, right? It allows him a little more time to prove that he is that guy that he has shown, although the numbers, like that's the thing. You take his numbers over the last 162 games, he looks like Marcus Semien. Now, the problem is that they're not all in a row.
It took 6 years to get there.
He really does need to put a healthy season together. And I think it would really do him a lot of good if he can give himself a little bit more breathing room. And he loves the Blue Jays, right? Again, this is all he knows. I really do think that it is a great fit. I think it's something that the front office should be trying to do right now, is extend Jano. Where are you at on him? Do you think he's too injury prone, Adam?
Man, I go back and forth on this. I mean, friend of the show, I don't want to say that he is. I know that, like, I mean, we can cite the freak injury of it all, taking a ball off the hand, but then I also, to be fair, would that have broken every other catcher's hand? Like, I just watched it happen to Gabriel Moreno 2 weeks ago. Took a very similar ball off the hand and a very similar, he's back catching, or he's catching, I should say back catching. That's illegal now, isn't it? He's catching, he's back there catching, and ball tipped off his hand, left the game. I mean, I think he had his at bat in the next inning and then came out of the game. and then just decided to return and hit a bunch of home runs and some clutch RBIs and take his team to the World Series. I don't know. Danny Jansen was out for a month. Gabriel Moreno was back the next day. Very similar event, but the outcome was different.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough for me to ignore. It feels like, if I'm being honest with myself, to say he's not injury prone feels like more of an apology than to say he is injury prone versus the evidence of, yeah, but they're kind of freak weird things. So, yeah, I would say if I had to go gun to my head, is he more or less injury prone? I'd say he's probably more injury prone. In my gut, that's how I probably honestly feel, like 55%.
Which is why you probably get him for a very reasonable price.
Yeah.
And with Alejandro Kirk still having 3 years of control on his contract, and in all honesty, I truly believe that Alejandro Kirk is most likely going to have a better season next year than this year. He struggled so much out of the gate that I really do think that just him getting right is going to be huge. So having Danny and Kirk back there for another, it would pair them up so that they're both going to be free agents at the same time. And then the Blue Jays can kind of reevaluate where they are at on the catching position at that point. And it does give Danny some runway to build his value back up and show that he can stay on the field. And if he can't,
I don't dislike a future with Danny Jansen. I think he's a great catcher.
Yeah.
I just wish he was there more. I wish he was our catcher 145 times a year. I truly do.
So where is everybody at? Grounds crew, let us know. Where are you at on Danny Jansen? Do you think an extension is a good idea, or are you more along the lines of let's play it out? Let's see if he can stay on the field here, and we can reevaluate and try and sign him in free agency if that's the route we wish to take, and pay a little more if he can prove that he can stay healthy, instead of maybe taking a discount on him to extend him, but then risking him missing half the season, which he has kind of been prone to doing. Moving on, I do wish to touch on Orelvis Martinez. I know we brought him up last show, but Orelvis has confirmed that he is going to go play in the Dominican Winter Leagues. He's going to play on Licey, which is the team that Nate Pearson threw for last offseason. Orelvis Martinez has been playing a lot of second base to end the season. He's a natural shortstop, but he doesn't look like he's going to stick at shortstop. In the big leagues, that's a big risk, but he does have a cannon of an arm. So he does profile nicely as a third baseman as well, but he does have a lack of experience there. Martinez has an above average arm. He's a very good athlete. He's not long-term shortstop. So where does he fit? And this is the thing to take into consideration is the Blue Jays are very much like Nate Pearson, allowing him to go to the winter leagues and get some innings under his belt. There's a reason they're sending Orelvis there. They'd like him to work on something. And the fact that he is slated in at second base does say something to me. Now, I'm not saying that it is eliminating him from the third base position, because like we already said, he's got a great arm. But his range is decent, and he does profile decently as a second baseman if he can get the reps in there. And there is also a hole at second base with this team. Now, right now, Biggio and Davis Schneider are kind of the guys that are probably going to slot in there and platoon back and forth, the lefty-righty there, which does fit nicely. And if one of them, we watched this happen this year. There were a few candidates at second base, and Whit Merrifield kind of took the job right out of the gate. And then by the end of the year, he was slumping, and then it was kind of back to that platoon thing. So 21 years old. Where are you at on Orelvis Martinez, Adam? Do you see him as a possible out of spring training addition to this Blue Jays? Because that was one thing I noticed as well on the Ben Nicholson-Smith article, is that There weren't internal options on there. Not one of them was like third base Addison Barger, third base Orelvis Martinez out of the gate. Is there more development to go there?
Well, I think the only Ricky Tiedemann included, the only player I would feel comfortable with in a starting role from day one, April 1st or March 31st, whenever the schedule starts, would be Orelvis Martinez.
Okay.
Would be taking a chance on him. I think just the upside is so substantial that I'd be willing to deal with the growing pains of him.
He has lowered his strikeout rate, which was almost over 30% in AA, to around 16 in AAA last year. He cut it in half. He is taking way more walks. We're still seeing monster power, and he's 21 going on 22. By the way, when you say that, in your scenario here, Davis Schneider already has a role on this team, correct?
No.
No. Okay.
No. I mean, as a bench piece, sure. But no, I don't want to go into the 2024 season going, well, we're good at second base. We got Davis Schneider. Like, if that's the way it plays out, sure. But the ceiling on Davis Schneider is not MVP player.
No.
That's the only guy I want to take a risk on, is a guy who has that kind of upside. Like, I love Davis Schneider. He was a fun story to follow last year. Great Absolutely. Guy, like whatever. But like,
friend of the show, amazing dude. Just
would I bet the mortgage on him hitting above 230 next season? Probably not. I just don't want to see. I want established guys when we're trying to contend. We can have one or two wild card lottery ticket type players, but for me, that's not Addison Barger, that's not Davis Schneider, and again, like Ricky Tiedemann. If he ends up getting pitches hot in AAA and does the Alek Manoah 2021 route and is our fifth starting pitcher by the middle of May, cool. Like, that worked out. I'll gladly take that. But I don't want to approach free agency and be like, okay, we got Gary Gossman, we got Chris Bassett, we got Jose Barrios, Yusei Kikuchi, and we got Ricky Tiedemann in the number 5 spot. That does not interest me. So
yeah, I'm kind of with you. I feel like Ricky
resign Ryu, go get a free agent, trade for somebody. Doesn't have to even be a top tier guy, but like, go get us a proper number 5, sure. Yeah. And let Ricky steal that guy's job. That's what I want to see. And that's how I feel about the rest of the positions.
Alek as well, for that matter.
Alek Manoah is the same thing. Yeah, don't give him I don't want to plan on Alek Manoah being our number 5 and maybe he's our number 1 by the end of the year. Like, no, he's our number 8 and he's down in AAA and maybe he recaptures it and then we're laughing, right?
Big time.
And that's how I feel about like third base and everything else. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't want to go into the 2024 off season and being like, we don't got to worry about third base. We have Addison Barger. That fucking means nothing to me.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. If we say the plan is Orelvis Martinez.
And I'm excited about Barger.
I know you are. I'm not. I want
but
to
I feel the same way, Adam. I feel the same way. Like, I'm excited about him and I still feel like, prove it, kid.
I'm not thrilled about this idea either, but if that was the approach and we like didn't sign a third baseman or a second baseman or whatever, and then the answer at the press conferences in February was like, hey, why didn't you solve that hole at third base after letting Matt Chapman leave? And the answer was, oh, because Orelvis Martinez, it's his job. He's starting at third. We love what he did in the
The Dominican League.
Winter League and whatever. We
Yeah.
are so high on this kid, and he is our third baseman, and the future starts today. I'm all in on that. But if it's anyone but him, I'm not. I'm so pissed. That's where I'm at, like with him.
No, and I agree. And I think that one thing
And I
that
still
really
think
stood
that's
out to
risky.
me.
I still think that's
Yeah.
risky.
Oh,
but
100%.
with the
Super
with the
risky.
upside there, I'm willing to take that one risk. I'm just not willing to do it unless the ceiling is way up there. So
yeah, I get what you're saying. Okay. The risk reward, it only works in the Orelvis Martinez scenario to you. And I think that one thing that stood out as well with that Ben Nicholson-Smith article is that Santiago they move on from, which does go to show you they do have a lot of faith in Davis Schneider to be that guy who can come off the bench and be that Santiago Espinal. I mean, look at how much Espinal played last year, right? Like Schneider's going to be given an opportunity to take a job.
40 to 60 games and maybe more if it goes well.
For sure. I mean, what did Espinal play last year? It had to have been close to 100. I mean, maybe not, but there's definitely going to be some opportunity there for Davis Schneider. He does have that power. He does hit oppos, which is, again, something that this team struggles with.
Santiago Espinal had 93 games last year.
And spent some time on the IL.
Yeah, I don't know how many of those games were. I mean, if you pinch hit in the 9th inning or you're a defensive sub in the 8th, that counts as a game. I don't count that as a game, but like statistically, it might be more like 70 or 80 with a couple pinch hits, pinch runs, or whatever. Yeah. But anyways, half a season, sure.
Man, I'm so curious what happens at third base. Like, it really is going to be such an interesting offseason. So, by the way, to the grounds crew, if we're missing something here, drop it in the comments. Like, where are you at on third base? How does everyone feel about Orelvis Martinez? How does everyone feel about Addison Barger? Damiano Parmigiani, friend of the show, like the dude hammered balls in the Arizona Fall League. He continues to progress at every level that this organization has put him at. He's definitely a dark horse to do some damage later in the season in 2024. I can't see in a million years him making this team out of spring training, but is he a guy to keep your eye on? A dude who could definitely be given an opportunity in 2024? Hell yeah, he could. Absolutely. All right. Anything to add there on Orelvis?
No, I think we covered it.
Okay. World Series. Buddy, what a game one.
Yeah, I mean, I was at my kid's hockey game, so I didn't get to watch it live. The whole drive home, I was telling my dad, don't check your phone. I said, we'll do game 1 in 30 or whatever it's called when we get home at, 10 o'clock. And then I get to the Sportsnet app and I scroll down and the game's still like airing. And I'm like, why? It started like 4 hours ago. Like, what? I'm like, oh, maybe it's an extras. This is awesome. And I'm like, we're just forget the thing in 30 or whatever because it wasn't an option. I'm like, we're just joining them live. And we're joining them live as they're like doing like the post game coverage of like it just ended after the 11th. And I'm like, shit. We shouldn't have stopped for coffee cream like at the grocery store. But of course, watch the recap of it or whatever. And just like what an awesome game it looked like. Corey Seager, man. I mean, what a huge home run to have hit in the 9th inning to tie that up.
Incredible. And that is really the takeaway. As soon as
he hit the ball too, like just the look on his face. Oh, he knew he got a hold. Like what a great feeling. Happy for a guy like that. Just I love moments in sports. And even as not being a Rangers fan, I'm like, oh, Corey Seager. Like that's the moment we all played out in our backyard.
Yeah.
World Series game tying home run, like boom, over the hedges, right? And like, I was so pumped for him. I don't even like him, but so pumped for him because that's just cool.
That was the takeaway of game one, in my opinion, was that the Rangers' big dogs showed up big.
Yep.
Corey Seager, Adolis Garcia put that team on their back and made it work, man. And It's funny. I saw a tweet that just made me laugh out loud from Mish Beer, friend of the
Hey.
show and Patreon member. And
Yep.
hello, Mish.
Hi, Mish.
She says, so apparently hitting Adolis Garcia with a ball is like pouring water on a gremlin.
Great analogy. Great analogy. Yeah, someone fed that kid after midnight because he is
Yes.
balling out. Yes. Yeah.
My God, the dude is such a beast. Like, you just watch him come to the plate, the confidence that man has right now, and ride the hot streak, kid. Like, ride that hot stick,
Mm-hmm.
because this isn't how Adolis Garcia is every game of the 162 game season. Obviously, nobody is like this, but that's what you got to love about playoff baseball is the guys who show up and just play out of this world. Like Adolis Garcia in that game, winning home run last night. That was his 22nd RBI of the playoffs. Yeah. Now, please, everyone in the comments, tell me how RBIs don't matter. But like, that's insane.
Yeah,
he broke the record for RBIs in a playoffs, by the way, yesterday.
so
And
what
they're
is he
still
on pace for a 200 RBI season if this was 162 scaled out?
like
Yeah,
legit, man. Legit.
That's the frame of reference of where he's at right now. Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm still I think I'm cheering for the Diamondbacks in this World Series.
Me too, man. Me too. I'm just an underdog guy. I just would prefer to see the underdog win. And of course, the 84 win Diamondbacks. Nobody's a bigger underdog than that. After last night's game, a lot of the rhetoric is the Diamondbacks are done.
They gave it everything they had, and it came up short.
Do you feel that that's possible, or this is still a series, right?
Yeah, it's still a series.
Yeah.
I mean,
how many times do the Diamondbacks need to be counted out before people learn their lesson?
Yeah. No, I mean they're
they're a fun team, man.
They're a fun team. It's good. I mean, as long as they believe in themselves, they got a shot.
Yeah.
So, I think Corbin Carroll is a mega star. I think he is going to be a video game cover athlete at some point in his career. I love the way he plays ball.
Runaway rookie of the year in the NL.
Looks like an absolute math teacher out there, but boy, can he play ball. I love it. And they got a couple kids on that team that can play ball the right way. So it's a fun team. I think, a couple things go their way, and they could absolutely take 4 in this series. So
Merrill Kelly taking the mound tonight against Jordan Montgomery, who has been just a revelation for the Rangers since he joined them at the trade deadline. I mean, what a great acquisition. And it's funny, even when they added him, I kind of poo-pooed it a little bit. I was like, oh, you went out and got Jordan Montgomery. But honestly, where would this team be without him? He's literally been incredible for them. Mm-hmm. Coming out of the bullpen to lock down that game 7 against the Astros. I mean, just what a story from Jordan Montgomery. Love to see it. So many great stories in this World Series. It does make me laugh, all the Yankees and Dodgers fans that are like, no one's going to watch this series. It's going to be so boring. And like game 1 was just like the best game 1 we've seen in a World Series. And so it's just like, okay.
If we get 7 more games like that, oh my God. I hope it's
a little more.
6 or 7 games, and I hope they're all close. They don't have to all go to extras, but I want
give me games. As much playoff baseball as we can get. Exactly.
I don't want to be tuning out in the 8th inning going, all right, well, that was a good game.
Yeah.
Don't give me that.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Let's wrap up on Halloween. Coming up here. Now, I put this as one of our show notes because I know that you get into Halloween. I know that with Lily, now 12, is she still excited for Halloween, or is now she too big?
She's still a trick-or-treater. She's definitely at that age where, like, I'm waiting for the year where she's like, I don't really want to go out. Like, I just want to stay home and watch scary movies with my friends or whatever, right? Like, it's coming, but I
Not this year.
I hope she still dresses up for those house parties and whatever. This year, so last year, her and I were 11 and Hopper from Stranger Things, and then I had to shave my beard for that one. That was a commitment. Dad of the year.
But you looked great, buddy.
Thank you. This year, she is going as Post Malone. Believe it or not. Yeah. So I'll send you a picture of that. She's got the
amazing.
We got face tattoos and everything for her. And then
she should call herself Pre-Malone. No,
right?
No, sorry.
Premature Malone.
Sorry.
And then her wishes, so we are honoring them, my wife and I, is that it is a family related costume. So all three of us are going as Post Malone. We're going as different versions of Post Malone. So face tattoos and all. So yeah, it's that's our Halloween costume this year.
That's super fun, dude. I can't wait. You got to send me pics.
Oh, of course. my favorite one that I've ever done was back when I was in college. I went as Billy Mays, the OxyClean sales pitchman. So me and my two buddies that I was my gang members, we were all like TV commercial pitchmen. So we had like Vince from Slap Chop or ShamWow or whatever, and then Ron Popeil from like the Ronco knives.
Yeah.
Big green apron and stuff. And then I was Billy Mays. It was, I'll send you that picture too. That's a good one. Honorable mention to my nephew who is with his best friend going as Dale and Brendan from Step Brothers. So
hey,
I've seen the picture of their costumes and it looks pretty good with their little diamond cardigan things and stuff. So there you go.
Yeah,
pretty fun. How about yourself?
It was a big Halloween party in Tumbler Ridge last night. There were some pretty cool costumes. I just put on the striped sweater and threw on a toque. Called myself Where's Waldo, right? Nice. It actually worked pretty good. Where's Waldo, the bearded version.
I like it. I dig it. That's good. Good for you.
One of my favorite costumes that I've ever done was I went to the Value Village and I bought the biggest pair of Fat Man pants you could find, somebody who had a 500 pounder, and then I put suspenders on it, and then I just went as pants, had it right up to here.
Just the full set of pants. Nice.
Well, it's just fun to yell out, "I'm pants."
Were you drunk when you were yelling that out, or were you just?
Oh yes,
absolutely. I'm pants. I can picture you saying that. I'm pants.
I also spent a day. So this was when I had first started comedy. I had quit my radio job. I had moved to Edmonton to pursue stand-up, and I wound up getting a job in a furniture warehouse, and it was patio furniture. This was in October, so the slowest possible time. So you're just literally, when the boss comes back, you're like, I've swept like 8 times. So they just kind of let you do whatever at that point.
Yeah.
So I made a cardboard cutout of the zigzag guy. And I did the white zigzag box and everything. And then I put on a red toque and just kind of wore around like that as the zigzag guy. That was a fun one too.
Nice. That's awesome. I love it. All right. Well,
drop in the comments, folks. What's your best costume? Yeah, let us know.
Good.
Honestly, apologies on this being a day late, but better late than never, right?
There you go.
Thanks
Game
so
2
much for
goes
listening,
tonight.
everybody. Game 2 goes tonight. Jordan Montgomery versus Merrill Kelly. I love that name, man. Merrill Kelly.
That's very good. All right, Scott. Cheers. Have yourself a good weekend, and we'll see you Monday for MLB Mondays on Patreon.
You too, buddy.
Okay,
take care, everybody. Cheers.